Jingle bells, Batman smelt, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost the wheel, and the Joker got away.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
Guys, what's going on? You are listening to This Week in Geek. I am your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as we trek into the final live show of 2024. Well, the last that's a word. Twigular. This is the Twigular live show.
I thought you were going to say the last Twiggle, and I'm like, what is going on here? We got new terminology we got to work out. No, you're right. It's the last regular show that isn't one of our specials for the... I guess we'll have like random episodes that come out. Well, not random. They're planned, but they're not the regular format.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that is Alex from the lovely city of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. And today is a little bit different. Obviously, this is the last show of the year, but this is sort of the, how would we describe this? Insomnia powered edition of the podcast, simply because me and Alex are on not a lot of sleep. I myself have not slept a lot since yesterday.
I slept like 4 hours during dinner time yesterday because I was so tired. And then off and on, like I'm sleeping like an old man now. Like not like when I joke about being an old man. No, like I'm sleeping like my great grandfather slept in the early 90s before he died.
Yeah,
I swear it's the weather. I really do.
I don't know what this is. Like this whole weekend, I haven't felt particularly great. But I came home on Saturday after finishing my Dungeons and Dragons season down at my local comic book shop, The Dragon, which went spectacularly, by the way. And my sleep schedule's just been really friggin' weird. So yesterday on Sunday, as of this recording, because this is definitely going up today, I slept all day. It was really, really weird. I was going to go out with Blair. We were going to go play some Pokemon. It was going to be a great time. Nope. Woke up at noon. Cool. Whatever. We're supposed to leave at 1. Slept till like 7 o'clock. Blair wakes me up and says, hey, Mike, maybe you should get up. And I've been awake since 7 o'clock yesterday as of this recording. So, hey, we are just a little over 24 hours. And I still have a bunch of stuff to do today. And I have a city council meeting to prepare for on Tuesday. So it's going to be a fun day, to say the least. I am so... And here's the thing. I'm tired, but not, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah. I was not mentally tired yesterday. But like I was starting to have trouble reading. I'm like, oh, that means I'm gonna have a crash soon. And then I got up from my living room chair and to go to my bedroom, and I went, oh no, my body's moving like I haven't slept in 6 days. And I got into bed and I was like, you know what, I'll take a quick nap. And that was 5 hours later. I blinked and I woke up and I went, what? Okay, well, I got to stay up a little bit. And then I went back to bed just a little bit before we decided to record, several hours earlier than we had initially planned because we're both up. And I went, I'll see if I can sleep again. Blink, 2 hours have gone by, and I had a dream. It's been a while since I've talked about my weird dreams, right? I had a weird dream in that 2 hour blinking and I woke up era. Mm-hmm. I had a dream that I was in some like pawn shop / giant, like think like a Costco in size, but it was like one gigantic thrift store.
Okay.
And I'm in the thrift store. I have to poop and fart real bad, but I'm trying to hide it because I'm finding all these deals that I don't want anybody else to swipe away from me. So I'm slowly, silently letting out all these crazy farts, and they're wildly foul. And I'm trying to like mask it. All the while, I'm getting like some guy that's like a salesman there trying to like check to see what I'm getting and all this, and then I'm talking to him about how, even though I don't think this is true, I'm like finding all these transformers, and every time I find a different transformer, I'm explaining to the guy, oh, how weird it was when they introduced that character in the TV show, which none of these characters existed, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in my head, I'm like visualizing a dream within a dream. So I'm explaining to this guy how they introduced them in the show, while in the dream I'm having like Inception. My dream version of myself is then having memories that play out like a video in my dream self's head, showcasing how they introduced the characters and how they were like wildly silly or over the top, like flamboyantly gay, or all these like weird things. And I'm describing it to this guy. All the while I'm farting all over them there, and people are like screaming because the smell is so bad in the store. and then I was just like, well, I gotta go, guys. Doodaloot. And I went and went to fart, and a big poop came out. And then I woke up and I went, what's going on? And then like 5 minutes later, I see a message from you saying, I haven't slept. Do you want to record?
Oh my God.
So
yeah, good times.
What kind of a dream is that? Okay, psychoanalysts out there. And I'll say this, by the way, I woke up, I didn't have to use the washroom, and I hadn't let one go in my sleep or anything. So where was that coming from? Like, it wasn't like something in real life was seeping into the dream.
Yeah, that's kind of strange to say the very least.
And I just say, finally, part of the reason I was doing all this talking to the guy is I was distracting, because in my dream, I was part of some heist group where we were trying to steal the most amount of toys. Like, think like Ocean's 11, but it was a toy heist.
I have stories I will tell you off air about the Great Toy Heist of 1996 at some point.
Okay, but yes, sorry. Yeah, none of my dreams, I think, can get me in trouble. I'll just say that. But that was a weird one, and I'm glad we talked about it, because I would have probably forgotten it later on in the day.
Good times. I'm so glad. I guess that's Alex, is what he's been up to.
So and yesterday I went and saw the Trailer Park Boys movie, Standing on the Shoulders of Kitties, which is a tour movie. It's very limited release. It's not very many people are going to see it, except for super fans. They made the round. The Trailer Park Boys made the rounds on like breakfast television and stuff. But we took my dad as like an early Christmas present, and we were the only people in the theater, so it ended up being like a private screening almost, from, by accident or whatever. They'll make their money back on the back end because it's all tax stuff, right? Telefilm Canada. But we went to see it, and it's a movie where Bubbles finally gets to go on tour. He goes on tour of Europe with Billy Bob Thornton and his band, and he's a country / rock and roll singer with his own band called the Shit Rockers, and 99% of his songs are about cats.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much there's that, and then weird stuff happens because as it does in a Trailer Park Boys production. But yes, it's literally he goes around singing about cats, and he sang about cats and started a prison riot. So yeah.
Okay. Good times. I myself, I haven't been to the movies this week. I've been trying to get out to see Moana 2. I'm just curious about it at like this point. I want to go see, only because I know it's terrible, Red 1. I've heard interesting things about it. So
I don't want to give money to The Rock in either format. I think at this point I'm done with him, so I'd rather not contribute to giving him money. Will
you give him money if he shows up in a Fast and the Furious sequel?
I have to, because it's about family. It's different.
But you didn't even miss a beat there.
That's about my fam. It's different, right? But like, I don't want to give, like, Moana 2 is apparently a Disney Plus TV show that they injected
that was reworked,
and they injected a little bit more money, so it actually like objectively looks worse than the original. So, like actual animation. So, I mean, I don't have an interest in that. He was the worst part of the original movie. So, like, and then Red One is apparently a disaster. I don't want to support a movie where the dude was pissing in coffee cups and then handing it to his intern saying, "Get rid of it."
I'm trying to think of what else I've done this week. Like I mentioned, I just finished up my 8-week season at the Dragon. Had a fantastic group of players, ran them through Ravenloft, put them through the Ringer, had a dramatic moment of self-sacrifice with one of my players named Jack. She did a fantastic job. Really impressed with her. I had another guy named John and Robert.
Did you do one of the classics where you make them run through a dungeon, not realizing that they're inside of a gelatinous cube that's slowly squeezing them together?
No, but that's a really good fucking idea, actually.
You can do it a couple ways where, like, you can make it where, like, the walls are shrinking in, like Indiana Jones, but not realizing it's being compressed by the thing. Or you can make it where, like, they just hear like rumbling and they're like, they don't understand what it is. And then, like, as they start watching, they're like, hey, the walls are sweating. But it turns out it's not sweat. It's the acid from the cube slowly melting from the outside of the room.
That's a really fucking good idea. I'm totally going to steal that. That's a really good idea.
That's a room trap. And you can make like a couple hour session of them just trying to figure out how to get out or what it is.
Oh, that like I said, that's actually kind of fucking good. Also, this weekend I had longtime friend and one of the co-founders of These Warriors Are Terrible, or Terrible Warriors as it was later became, Justin came up from Toronto and came up to hang out with me. So our good friend Justin, the role-playing TTT bus driver who randomly got stuck in the Guelph Santa Claus parade, so he couldn't check into his hotel. But we had a really good night with me, him, and Blair. He got us some awesome Japanese food. I tried eggplant for the first time.
Oh, you really never had eggplant before?
No, and I'm thinking this ain't bad. I mean, it tastes like nothing, but fine.
Well, yeah, I've had it a lot of times with more so in Japanese food with like tempura, but like, I mean, I've had it with.
That's how I have it.
Like, it's in Italian food. It's in some others. It's not like my German side doesn't have it, but the Italian side has it. So I've had it. But it's similar. Like, people that, if you've had it, it's kind of like zucchini, but it's not. But also, like, for anybody that is listening that's not in North America, our listeners over in the UK and in Europe, it's an aubergine. That's what we're talking about if you've never heard of it, because eggplant is something we just call it here, and everywhere else it's called something different.
I mean, like, it was interesting. I mean, like, it wasn't bad. I'm like, I don't know if I would ever try it again. I mean, I've heard people talk about, I think it's called eggplant parmesan or something.
Yeah,
try it. Sure.
What that is usually it's eggplant sliced, battered, lightly fried. Similar, not like panko like you do in the Japanese, but think like how you have like a chicken fried steak. Mm-hmm. Or country fried. You know how they have it in the States with steak and biscuits, where they think like a chicken schnitzel, but so you bread it, you fry it, or grill it, fry it, and then you have that in place of where you'd have chicken parm. So that in itself is like I guess an alternative, a meatless alternative for certain dishes.
Yeah, I mean, like, it wasn't terrible. So I'm like, you know what, this ain't bad. I'd try it again. Maybe I'll try a traditional eggplant parmesan, and I would try the hot tempura version of it again, just to see if it kind of sticks with me.
I don't know if your place is like ours, but there's a couple sushi places in town that do a pretty good bento box that are like $20-ish bucks. I don't get it often, but like when I do get Japanese food a few times a year, I'll get it, and for like 17 or 18 bucks, you're able to get like, what is it? You get like a sampling. You get like a little homemade salad, a little soup, a little like miso soup. You get a couple chicken skewers that are like teriyaki. You can get your choice of meat, which is, I usually go with like teriyaki salmon. So you get some fish, you get a little rice, you get a few samples of like different types of sushi. And then it also comes with a couple breaded shrimps or tempura shrimps. And then you get like different types of vegetables slices with it too. So, and that usually includes eggplant. So it's like a big variety pack. So if you're ever out my way, maybe we'll get one of those sample packs for you.
Yeah, I think that'd be halfway decent. But guys, we have been chit-chatting long enough on what we're going to be talking about today. Like I said, this is the final live show, or the Twigular show for the year. So in terms of reviews, we're going to be taking a look at Friends, the complete series from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment, as part of our holiday gift guide preview. We also have Alex taking a look at a Turtle Beach device of some type. And what is the other thing you have for us today?
A remake slash reimagining of one of the early indie JRPGs, Breath of Death 7. Now it's called Breath of Death 7, the beginning Reanimated. That was one of the top, I think one of the top 2 or 3 indie games on the Xbox Live Arcade when that launched.
Holy shit.
Like, we're talking, 14 years ago. It was like one of the top sellers on Xbox, like Live Arcade period. And then it had an early life on Steam, sort of a tongue-in-cheek tribute to these 8 and 16-bit era JRPGs before anybody else was really doing that. And now they sort of come back with a new version with brand new graphics engine, completely it's the same game but completely new engine. It's like, what if they took I don't know, sometimes it happens in the industry where you'll get a remake that it's completely ground up. I guess similar to what they've done with the Dragon Quest games, just not like HD.
All right, so we're going to be taking a look at that and more right here on thisweekingeek.net. But I guess first place we're going to go is to check out this cool thing from Alex, and this is going to be his review of something cool from Turtle Beach. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on thisweekingeek.net.
Alex, the producer here, with just a quickie review from our friends over at Turtle Beach. They sent their new Stealth Pivot controller for us to check out. Now, this is an Xbox and PC controller. Also, connectivity via Android is possible, as there's Bluetooth with it. But what this is, and we've reviewed a few of their other controllers in the past, well, the BFG controllers, where you can change the modules for like the analog sticks and the button layouts by using like a little key tool that pops them out and pops in new ones in different orientations. And what that, is fun for a lot of people. I like it. But what they've sort of done here is given you the ability to swap them without any tools. It's toolless in that the modules themselves can pivot, or that's the gimmick of the entire controller, and you can sort of spin them around so that if you spin them around internally within the controller, you now have another entire face set. So you can have like the fighting button layout on the right, or flipping it over on the left will give you a different orientation. So it's all sort of built in one unit, so you don't have to carry around your special carrying case with your different modules if you don't want to. So that's actually really, really neat. Best way to describe it is, for those of you that are of a certain age, of at least, let's say, mid-30s or older, if you remember when the Power Rangers had, like the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had those toys where you could press a button and it would flip from their body was like always in Ranger form, but their head would be in like, teenager form, unmorphed. And if you press the button, it would flip the head around into its own chest cavity, and then bam, you magically had a morphed Ranger. It's kind of like that, only in game controller form. It also has a really cool display on the actual, like a little LED display on the controller itself, which I believe they call their, what is it here, the command center? Is that what it was called here? I'm just pulling it up here as I'm playing around because I've been tooling around with it now for a little bit. Control Center 2, that's what it is. So there's the that's an app that you get for Xbox, PC, iOS, or Android, and in itself, that's how you can set up special settings and macros and button layouts and all that fun stuff on the controller. But a lot of that stuff can be accessed, and you can see the settings and everything so on for it from the command display, which is connected on the controller. So just above the Xbox home button, you'll have a display with a layout of that. So it's a little more high tech than previous controllers that we've looked at. It'll show you like what profile you're on, if you're connected via wireless, wired, Bluetooth. It'll show you if you've got your headset connected, if you're muted, all with LED lights, and it even has a battery indicator on there. And you can, like, on the menu, you can switch between like chat and audio mixes. It's actually really neat. It does have Hall effect anti-drift thumbsticks, which is good. Like to see that. Adjustable trigger stops, like the previous controllers we've talked about for the RGB lighting. You can have, I think, up to 5 onboard profiles that you can set depending on your settings. So maybe you want to have a profile set for when you're playing on a PC. You want to have a different set if you're doing it like on Android or something via Bluetooth and so on. So it's kind of neat. There is a fair amount of audio tuning you can do if you want to use like plug in headphones and do it, and you can tune to like your own equalizers or for what your ear shape is and all that fun stuff. And something that is important here to mention, that in previous controllers like the BFG that we reviewed, the BFGs that didn't have rumble. This does have vibration feedback. So that is something to look forward to, and that's something that I felt was kind of missing from the previous controller setup. So here you do have rumble. You get about 20 hours of battery life, and you get a play and charge cable, meaning some controllers, if you go to charge, you can't have it on. It's less common nowadays with controllers, still kind of common sometimes with headsets, where you'll plug something in to charge and it turns off to charge. Not the case here. Standard play and charge, so you can plug it in. It's like, oh man, I'm wireless, the battery's starting to go. All right, I'll tether myself while I play for a bit while it charges. You plug it in, seamless, switches over to charging mode while you're still being able to play. No issues whatsoever. Comes with an 8-foot USB-C extension cable, extended 8-inch, an extended 8-foot USB A to C cable. Where is my brain at today? But I would say pretty low lag when you're on wireless. It's got an MSRP of 130 American. Pretty solid for what you actually get here. It's got a really cool, like, military, like, futuristic, almost Halo-ish looking design. Pretty sweet overall. Great performance, good build quality. I like that everything's sort of all contained in one unit. Having the fact that it's a Hall effect joysticks is a big plus nowadays. It's kind of necessary if you're going for something that isn't a budget controller, more into the middle to higher tier quality controller, which this clearly is. So if you're looking for something for Christmas, you might want to check it out. I will probably be promoting this in our holiday gift guide that's upcoming, so keep an eye out for that, because we've had a bunch of different controllers come out this year, and it's sometimes hard to pick which one is the sweet spot, and I think that the Stealth Pivot might be that for you.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek News.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to thisweekingeek.net. I'm Mike the Birdman. He's Alex, the producer. And thank you, Alex, for that review of that Turtle Beach device. Okay, so we have got some of the latest news stories from around the world of geek, dork, and dweeb. And we're going to start things off with a report coming out of JoBlo.com that Superman reportedly set for a few days of reshoots. Earlier this year, James Gunn suggested that Superman wouldn't need any reshoots, but that appears that cameras will be rolling once again. The Hollywood Reporter's Heat Vision newsletter states that, quote, the movie will be doing a few days of additional shooting in Los Angeles in the near term after recent test screenings. For a film as big as Superman, a few extra days of reshoots are pretty minor, unlike some comic book movies. I could mention, I'm looking at you, Captain America Brave New World. When Gunn was asked about a possible Superman reshoots this summer, he said he's done a total of 1 day of reshoots on my past 2 films combined. I'm looking forward to seeing more from the film. Hopefully we may even see the first teaser trailer by the end of the year. And then it just goes into who kind of stars in this movie, which includes Superman stars David Corn Sweat as from Pearl as Clark Kent, Rachel Brosnan, the marvelous Miss Maisie as Lois Lane. The cast also includes Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, one of my favorite Green Lanterns, I might add. A charismatic and slightly obnoxious member of the Green Lantern Corps, Isabel Marseille from Dora and the Lost City of Gold as Hawk Girl. That's not Dora the Explorer, is it?
Probably.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Wait, okay, I might be wrong. I'm not going to look it up, but wasn't that same Dora the Explorer the girl that was pregnant and killed in the newest Alien movie?
I don't know. Maybe, actually. I'm not sure.
I think that was her. Now that she's like grown up, and
yeah,
she's like the word she's like, open the door. Why would you open the door? The queen or whatever, or the I guess not a queen, but the full grown one's behind her.
Yeah. You know what? That very may very well be. Either way, kind of cool. I mean, to have a superhero movie that does a couple days of reshoots, that's no big deal. Hell, for all we know, it could be like, here's a close up of like Nathan Fillion's hand. He has to grab something. It's continuity stuff. It's not going to be major effect stuff or like little pieces of dialogue, whatever.
No, it'll be, if I had to guess, because of how meticulous that Gunn's been, it'll be two things. It'll be one, and we're not talking like ADR shooting, so it's actual reshoots of certain things. So one, it could mean that they had to alter something because plans for future movies have slightly changed. So we're not talking like post-credit scenes, but characters might need to be introduced now, that because they've now cast people for roles in future films that they just didn't have. Like reshoots can also mean they held off shooting a scene because the actor wasn't available yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it could be like, oh, we have like 90% of the actors, but so and so, who is going to be key to our project, is off filming something else for Paramount or somebody, right? And then they're like, well, we won't have them for 7 months. Okay, well, it's not really. It is technically a reshoot, but on paper, but in reality, it's just a couple scenes that they just hadn't made yet.
Yeah. I know. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Or the other thing it could be is, and this does happen with big sci-fi and big budget pictures, it could be they did shoot a bunch of stuff, they sent it to the FX house, the FX house did everything they possibly could, but then Gunn looked at it and went, it's just not looking right, and it's nothing that the FX studio can do until they're like, wait, we have to rethink this scene so that the effects can actually work with it.
Yeah, like I know Creature Commandos recently came out, and there was a pretty significant possible future scene, and I would wonder if that might tie into this sort of thing. Someone has put the theory forward, does DC's new cinematic universe, whatever the hell the acronym is now, does it have the own version of the Snyderverse Nightmare universe, which I think would be kind of cool, if I'm going to be real.
I mean, I've seen the first 2 episodes, and all I know is that Frank Grillo is playing Flag's dad. And outside of what's her name, the boss, the
Amanda Waller.
Yeah, only what's it? The little weasel dude.
James Gunn's brother, Weasel.
Yeah, only he is returning from, but it is directly connected to Peacemaker.
Yeah, which is cool. I mean, I want to see. Here's the thing. I actually started looking back at DC movies proper, and what I've been doing at night recently is I've been rewatching old movies or movies that I missed during the last couple years, and it'll probably be something me and JT talk about on Sunday Funnies in 2025, because we've kind of talked around it about what happened with the DC universe that made it go kaput. And we did ideas on what we could have done to fix it. And I'm hoping this is a promising new start. Like Creature Command, I think it's a pretty bold move to start your cinematic universe more or less starting in animation. I think that's a pretty bold move because not everybody has HBO Max, although in Canada it's probably on one of the streaming services like Crave or something. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I've read a lot of the articles on it because I'm curious about it.
Like my personal issue, how I see that DC went, is there wasn't a cohesive vision for the top down, but that, people can argue that. The biggest issue was Zack Snyder is really, really, really bad at building a world that looks lived in. Everything in the background, every city, everything doesn't just look like a green screen because it is. It doesn't look like anywhere people actually live. It's all like plastic looking. Everything looks like it's covered in cellophane.
Like,
and that's not the CGI, because the studio is good enough to do good CGI now and then. It's just it's like everybody is not like, oh, it's a stylistic choice. Everybody's like walking on a painting. It's like they're everything always looks like they're on a soundstage. Nothing ever looks like they're really there. And it's hard to make you connect with all these characters when it always still looked like they were just in a play.
Yeah, like I personally, for me, for Snyder, my favorite movie of his is Watchmen from 2009. I like 300. I like Dawn of the Dead. And for his DC stuff, I like parts of Superman. Man of Steel. I like parts of Dawn of Justice. I don't mind the Snyder cut, but it's a little long. What I don't like is there was no cohesive vision. You're right. There was just nothing there that ties it together. Now, Gunn is an awesome storyteller. So I'm looking forward to seeing what him and his team have come up with. I think with Gunn's experience with Marvel, he's probably learned a lot. And we're going to see something cool. Like I said, it's ambitious to start this in animation. I would have personally, the more traditional route would have been start with a movie that's simple, but they've already said Superman's not going to be an origin story. Like some of the characters they're already talking about are like Metamorpho and stuff like that. Like, all right, cool. Hell, you're introducing Guy Gardner. That's a pretty interesting pull.
It helps the guy in charge of all this yes, he's a director, but he was a writer first.
And he's a dork.
He's a dork, but also he is an accomplished screenwriter first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Snyder was a guy who had interesting vision, but no real writing skill. And that's apparent in everything he's ever worked in, because even if it's something that you direct that you didn't write yourself, you do usually inject your own personality into the writing. And nothing that Snyder's ever directed seems to have an actual personality. It's very flat.
I would argue Watchmen and 300.
But they're very flat. It's a visual feat, but very, very little, like, in a way of like, where's the signature is that he has no signature is what I'm arguing. Like, There's nothing that feels like his soul is in anything he does. And I think that's what it was missing. There's no soul in the DC stuff until, what we saw with like Suicide Squad and all the stuff with Gunn.
I'm trying to think, like, if I were to give Snyder another project, let's just spitball here. If I could give him something hyper violent, like a character like, say, Hitman, or alternatively, you and I watched a movie together a couple of years ago, and it was a DC animated feature. And I think it was called Suicide Squad Assault on Arkham. And it was heavy action, but a lot of people fucking died in it. It was really violent, but it was really fun.
Don't let him have big sci-fi CGI spectacle. He's not good at it.
Yeah, Rebel Moon does not look interesting to me at all.
He is really, really bad at having a lived-in world, like I said, unless you take away his ability to use a green screen. What you should give him is give him, if he was ever to work with DC, you give him something like, what was the one where it's like not Dial M for Murder, but it's like a phone booth or whatever on the covers. It's like it was like a dial something for something, and it was like murder mysteries. Or you give him like one of the, I don't remember the name of it, but like one of the DC World War II ones, like
Sergeant Rock. That might be interesting.
Have it be like Sergeant Rock versus zombies or something. But again, I feel like he needs to finally direct a movie that has no CGI.
Yeah, like I want to, because I like some of his style. Like, I don't want to shit on the guy, because you know what? That's what the cool kids do. Like, no, I'm not
trying to be cool. He tried to make another zombie movie on Netflix, and it was terrible because he decided to hold the camera and shake it around the whole time.
Yeah, I tried to watch that thing like about a year ago. I think it was called Dead War or something like that. And I'm thinking this isn't good. Now, like I like, it got so boring. I watched this Korean zombie television show. I think it's called All of Us Are Dead, which I thought was way better than this. Hell, I was more entertained by High School of the Dead, and that was only 6 episodes of fucking fan service. But
Snyder is a one-trick pony that never grew as a filmmaker beyond what he did in his first 2 pictures.
I think if I had to say something pleasant about Snyder, is I felt he gave up after Man of Steel. I'm willing to let him go to 2013 because Watchmen, I felt, honestly, I would even go so far as to say I felt passion behind that. 300, I saw a guy who was confident and like, hey, I can do something cool. Dawn of the Dead should not have been as good as it was. And it was fine.
That seems like he had more fun making it. I think he's somebody. Okay, he's like Kevin
Sucker
Smith.
Punch is where something happened to him. I think
he's like Kevin Smith. Don't give him above a $15 million budget on anything ever. You do not give Kevin Smith money. You do not give him money. Some people don't have the skill to manage and execute a large project.
Yeah, like for Kevin Smith, if I were to ever give him a Marvel project, for example, I would give him Daredevil because he's a street level hero. He's not going to be fighting Thanos. He's not going to be fighting Ultron. He's going to be taking on someone like in Jessica Jones. He's going to be fighting Purple Man. He's going to be fighting like, Kingpin, which is fine. You give him a street level threat and that's fine. You don't need big spectacle. Yeah, if you want to have him swing through the streets like he does in the comic book, like Spider-Man and his fucking Billy Club, yeah, sure, that's fine. Or if Kevin Smith were to do a DC project, I'd give him Green Arrow and say, okay, you know what the Arrowverse did? You can do that with a little bit more money, but if you cross this threshold, you're out. And make it street level, make it interesting, make it grounded, and I think you could have some real fun with that.
And you can't just set up a camera in a corner and have people talk for 20 minutes straight without cutting.
Exactly. Like, I think Kevin Smith could do something interesting. I do.
Kevin Smith is a much more interesting orator, talker, and storyteller than he is a director, to be honest, and writer. Have you tried to go back and watch like Chasing Amy or Dogma? They are dog shit compared to what you remember, and also they're just him working through his trauma and like when he was like overly Catholic still, and it's very problematic the messages he's trying to give.
I like Dogma more than what I remember. Chasing Amy has never been a movie I've particularly cared for, and it's not because I don't care for the subject matter. It's just I don't connect with a lot of the characters. It's just not my thing, I guess.
Because the characters are all Kevin Smith trying to argue with his own prejudices. And it's
like Mallrats, I get. Clerks, I get. Clerks 2, I really enjoy. But part of my fandom with Kevin Smith is because that's very connected to me as a person and my own personal journey. And without working through my trauma here on the show, I see a lot of friendships. And even in Clerks 3, which did make me cry when Dante died, I was really upset.
Spoiler for me who didn't want to go see it. Okay.
Yeah, like it's honestly worth seeing once. And I will say that it's kind of a shitty ending to that. And he is working on something else. Another I felt Jay and Silent Bob reboot didn't need to happen, which is kind of unfortunate. Clerks 3 needed to.
After we saw it, to me, you know what it felt like? Somebody making a whole movie where they had their friends make cameos. Yeah. And I was like, oh, something about... It's weird. I feel like when he got off the food and on the weed, it's like he stopped being able to write stories.
Although now that he's not even doing that, now things are kind of different with him. Like I like listening to him be a podcaster. Like him being a podcaster, he's wonderful. Like him on Hollywood Babylon, he's hysterical.
I think he is somebody who sounds bad. Should not direct movies anymore. He should be somebody who collaborates on somebody else's script and could be a good script doctor, but shouldn't necessarily make his own anymore.
I could see that, like, or like maybe he does like second unit stuff or something like that. Yeah.
Or give him small mini like TV series projects. Give him like 6-episode mini dramedies that he can work on.
You know who I think would be interesting for him to work with? Edgar Wright.
Yeah, who's another one is talented, hasn't always been given the right tools or budgets, but like some of his stuff's kind of hard to watch too now.
Yeah, like I went and saw Shaun of the Dead back in October, and I really liked it, but I did notice some problems with it. Hot Fuzz is, I think, his best thing he's ever made. And then
Yeah.
probably Scott Pilgrim, and obviously that didn't resonate with everybody.
Some people will take Hot Fuzz and flip it around with World's End as well.
Mm-hmm. But to kind of swing this background to kind of Superman again and James Gunn, I want to be excited for the new DC universe. I do. Like, I'm a comic book guy. I've learned to love certain things because of JT. Thanks to Dave, I've learned to look at movies that are even bad in a different light. And even through you and being friends with Liam, I've learned to be critical, but learn to appreciate certain things too. Because we both enjoy cinematic garbage. But at the same time, when something sucks, something sucks. I mean, like, I sat through Morbius a couple weeks ago because I was curious. I had to know the origin of Morbin time. And I can say this, honestly, was my time completely wasted? No. Could that movie have been good? Probably not. But there was some interesting bits in there that I did enjoy. So, I don't know. Superman, please don't suck. We'll wait and see what happens. So moving on to our next story, and I'm really glad Alex put this one together. This one comes courtesy of GameDeveloper.com. EA is making photosensitivity and speech recognition tech patents open source. In 2021, EA made a pledge to let the wider game industry use accessibility-related patents at no cost, and now the publisher has added 23 new patents to its lineup. As of today, this was last week, third parties can freely use patented technologies such as improved speech recognition, simplified speech tech in games, and the ability to create more personalized speech. The broad aim is for this tech to assist players with speech disabilities or those who need help verbally expressing themselves. For developers, sorry, I'm trying hard not to sneeze here, EA suggests they could use the technology to make it, quote, make it possible for those players' speech to be more effectively recognized and reflect in-game in a way that is representative of their age, emotion, language, and speaking style. Another patent highlighting is an internal plugin for Unreal Engine 5 that enables in-use engine of EA's previous open source photosensitivity analysis tech, or Iris. The plugin now allows developers to catch potentially photosensitive issues in engine and real time as they run their games. The sooner you start to realize, the sooner you can find potential issue, said Iris engineer Blanca Macazo Zuaz. According to her, not many free or easy to use tools for photosensitivity analysis were made available. Prior to Iris, the free access takes 2 barriers with 1 stone, which she called a, quote, incredible feeling. Previously, Madden and Dragon Age publisher, made technologies like Apex Legends, ping system, and voice controls for NPCs free use. The decision to allow more notable as the industry's accessibility strides mainly concern controllers or options in specific games such as colorblind modes and skipping puzzles. Kerry Hopkins, EA's senior VP of Global Affairs, explained this new batch of open source patents, quote, encourages the industry to work together to make video games more inclusive by removing unintended barriers to access. Along with the patents, EA said its PQI team is running accessibility design workshops and expanding its testing approaches to ensure, quote, we are always designing with accessibility in mind. More to come soon. Again, it's nice to see EA do this because this is something you'd see come out of like Ubisoft.
Something that I did notice, like when I played Dragon Age, I was like, you know what? They did do a fair bit to their accessibility options that was there and brought it more in line with what you'd see from like an Ubisoft or a Sony.
Mm-hmm.
And but making it specifically patents free open source means that not just for like small indies that want to use Well, obviously, this part of this is because it's on their Frostbite engine, right? Which is proprietary, but they want to expand to have other people use it. But not only is it good for that, if the tools are truly open source, it means you can port it to other engines too. So in doing that, it means that it'll help the indie people, it'll help a lot of other people, and then get them a little bit of clout, but also hopefully then encourage more people to maybe use their engines if they sign up for like the EA Originals indie projects, that sort of. So there's a lot of stuff that'll help them on their business end, but they have needed good press for a long time. Not, I'm not a fan of any one particular company, but like, that they've needed good press. So this was a good move for them overall. So I also wonder if it's a little late for them. It's too late for them to make it this year, but this could be something that gets them like award nominations within the industry, for accessibility and stuff. So it's good. I like it. It's very rare that we see an EA article come out that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool, and I like how accessibility isn't just larger text. It isn't just voice. It isn't just text to voice. It is like The Last of Us 2 did astounding stuff. We're seeing Call of Duty do some new stuff. Ubisoft have always been a leader in some capacity. One of the things I really like, because it saves me time reviewing stuff at times, is the option to skip puzzles or simplified inputs for stuff. Like, I remember an accessibility thing for me, and this goes years back. I was playing Resident Evil 6. So this is like late 2010, somewhere in there. And there's a puzzle where you have to climb up this rope ladder. I got stuck because I couldn't get the timing right. I had to call my friend Jamie, if you remember him from the prototype. Like, Jamie, I'm fucking stuck. This is stressing me out. I'm going to throw this PlayStation 3 controller across the room. Please come help me. And he came over and we both beat it together. But if that game were made today in 2024, that puzzle, that QuickTime event would be hold X to progress the puzzle, or here's a simplified input. In Star Wars Outlaws, for example, those lock picking sections, which are still fucking annoying.
Yeah, I turned those way down. Not because like they were overly hard, but because they're time consuming. Like, some things consume extra time and make you feel like you're rewarded for it. But when there's like 10,000 of them and they're clearly there just to make the game padded out, turn that shit down. Like, it's so much better in like the remakes and remasters of the Last of Us games, where you could just like press button to skip puzzle completely, because some of them are essential and some of them are just like, no, I'm here for the story, especially in a narrative driven game.
Yeah, like, there is no reason for a blink and you'll miss it quick time event in a modern game. It's just, it does not need to be there. And like, are we ever going to see accessibility options truly in a Soulsborne game? Probably not. It is what it is. And I'm played a few Soulsborne type games that I like the Star Wars Jedi games. And hell, even Jedi Survivor changed its accessibility settings so you weren't punished that you couldn't parry a lightsaber thing in like pitch perfect, like using the Force sensitivity. But if you wanted to play with that, you could. Ghost of Tsushima, not quite a Soulsborne game, but still you had to be pretty sharp to parry. Stuff like Wukong that I played. What was
the first major boss in that game with the multiple phases? And you're like,
oh yeah,
you're like, Alex, I just want to like destroy my system. And I'm like, ooh, it's like we're 7 years old again playing on the NES.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then once I got past that boss, oh my God, was I in for a world of pain. But I eventually got through that game. But that's not fun. And accessibility, like, video games should be an escape, not a pathway to having a heart attack.
And some people's argument is, well, like, this is where they can excel, where they can feel like they've accomplished things. It's like, that's your experience. That's great. But your experience should not be the universal experience.
Exactly. Like, my feeling of accomplishment is feeling the emotional beats of a story. Am I expecting everything to be, The Last of Us Part 1 or 2? No. Am I expecting everything to be Dark Souls 3 or whatever? No. Like, I want a good medium. I don't know whether that'll happen, but with accessibility tools being now open like this, I think that possibility is greatly coming. So we're going to move on to our last story of the year, and this is an Indigenous one that I picked up from APTN. So Indigenous Music Capsule is heading to the moon in 2025. It gives new meaning to the term out of this world. Next year, a capsule filled with Indigenous music is scheduled to be launched on a NASA mission to the moon. The partnership is between the Lunar Codex, the estate of Norvell Morceau, whose art is on some of my stuff here in my apartment, and the Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs Canada. Since its establishment in 2020, the Codex has sent 3 capsules with an archive of works by more than 40,000 global artists to the moon. For the Codex's next mission, founder Samuel Peralta wants to highlight Indigenous artists. I was on another interview similar to this when the announcer asked me if I could have any artist in the world, what artist would I like? Peralta told APTN News, and I said Indigenous artist. The Lunar Codex Indigenous Music Collection is to be included in the 7th capsule entitled Polaris. The launch is tentatively set for November 2025. Corey Dingle, CEO of the Morrisseau Estate, is working with the Codex to curate submissions from Indigenous musicians. He said the project is to reflect the late Anishinaabe artist's wishes. This is a continuation of the Norvell Morceau's vision that he had early on in his life to document and to preserve and show the Indigenous culture. Dingle said in an interview, "We cannot think of a better way to preserve that culture than putting it on a lander on the southern polar ice cap of the moon for 1 billion years." Artist Blake, I'm going to mess up this guy's name, Anjana Kaneb, a member of the Lac Sioux First Nation in Ontario, is designing an art piece for the capsule. Now, this is a guy, you've actually seen his artwork in Toronto, and he crosses Indigenous art with pop culture. He's the person, I believe, who did the Super Mario Indigenous stuff in the subway down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in 2022, the estate commissioned Anja Kaneb and his wife, Danielle Morrison, to design Google Doodles celebrating Morrisseau. I actually think I remember those. Dingle reconnected with Anja Kaneb earlier this year. The CEO of the estate of Norvell Morceau reached out to me and asked if I knew any Indigenous musicians and if I could link him so they could put their music to the moon. And Anja Kaneb said, and we started talking, and he offered me to do the cover art for it. Anja Kaneb blends elements of the Woodland School of the Canadian Native art with pop culture. His artwork will be part of the Polar Capsule and will be featured in the branding. Quote, "I've been thinking a lot about space and obviously the moon," he said, "but I'm thinking back to my early childhood where I wanted to be an astronaut and stuff like that. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this piece, and we'll see what happens when I draw." The Lunar Codex, Peralta, a Canadian physicist who founded the Codex during the COVID-19 pandemic, in 2020. At that time, his artist friend had lost places to show and share their work, so Peralta suggested a new venue, the moon. To make the dream come true, he purchased an extra payload space from NASA partners to launch art into space. We basically found a way to miniaturize and archive the art and put them into payloads and send them to the moon. He explained, "When my friends in the art heard that, they were elated. Sending a kilogram of materials to the moon can cost upwards of $1.2 million USD. So the works are stored on nanofiche, a nickel-based technology that can store more than 1,000 works of art on a single disc about the size of a quarter." Peralta said the disc is built to last more than 1 billion years. In February,
Like 1 billion years.
That's crazy. In February, a Codex capsule with a selection of Indigenous visual art, including the painting of humpback whales traveling down the Milky Way by Micmac artist Alan Silboy, landed on the moon. In the Polaris capsule, sound waves, of songs of Indigenous musicians will be microscopically etched onto nanofiche. Project lead Jessica Sylvenson, who has a background in archaeology, imagines how the capsule could be interpreted by future humans or extraterrestrial life. Quote, "Going to the moon is not easy," said Sylvenson, "and if we're going to put all this time, effort, and energy in the saying something, that means this was important to us." I like to think that if someone came across this in the future, whether it was a human or extraterrestrial, then they can take away that this was important and this was something that we really cared about. Indigenous musicians have until December 31st to submit their artwork through the estate of Norvell Morrisseau's website. Songs will be selected in January 2025, and the Polaris capsule will tentatively launch in November 2025. That's very cool. I came across that story on Twitter this week. I just happened to be browsing, and I'm thinking, hey, that's kind of cool. And like I said, the Angie Kaneb artwork I have seen. I think Blair showed it to me last year. The Google Doodle artwork I do remember now that I think about it. So yeah, that I think is pretty cool shit.
Yeah, man. I still can't get over the billion years thing. Billion years?
Yeah,
Word?
I mean, just to think that something we made will last that long. Because like one of the things I like to do is I watch documentaries and I like to know what's happening to some of the space probes. Like I think it was like Mercury 10 or Mariner 10, whatever. It's one of the first probes we sent out and where it is in the universe. I still try and find updates about Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 now that I don't think we're getting active telemetry data out of them, and it'll take like thousands or billions of years or whatever to reach the next closest system out there, and it's just floating through the interstellar void.
And that's if like it doesn't get sucked into a black hole or into the gravity of another star. You know what I mean? Like, or just hit with space debris and blow up at some point. So you never know. That stuff can just happen. So,
yeah. Like, it's kind of incredible just to think that, life, as Dr. Malcolm from Jurassic Park said, finds a way, and maybe we will find a way to endure and survive. And I don't know. I just think that's interesting. The fact that this capsule will no, I was going to say, because the gap, like, eventually in 4 billion years, the sun will expand and it will be destroyed because the sun will expand out past the orbit of, I think, Mars when it becomes a red giant. Definitely out past the orbit of Earth. I don't know. Still, 1 billion years, pretty freaking cool. Anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News for 2024. What are some of your favorite news stories we've talked about here on the show? We'd love to hear from you. Feedback at thisweekingeek.net.
Thank God, I thought you were asking me, and I'm like, I am entirely not prepared for this answer.
Oh God, no. But yeah, like, we've covered a lot of interesting stuff here on the show, a lot of tech. We've covered some politics stuff. It's been an interesting year, to say the very least. Definitely not the 2024 I had on my bingo card. But hey, we're going to have to see what happens next year here on the show. And so we're going to take a small break here. We're actually going to hear from me right now. And this is going to be my review of Friends, the complete series on 4K Ultra HD from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. We'll be back, guys, with the final weird news on thisweekingeek.net right after this.
You're killing us here. Will you serve the dessert already? There's drunken dancers awaiting.
Look at it. Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah. What is it?
It's a trifle. It's got all of these layers. First, there's a layer of ladyfingers, then a layer of jam, then custard, which I made from scratch. Then raspberries, more ladyfingers, then beef sauteed with peas and onions, then a little bit more custard, and then bananas, and then I just put some whipped cream on top.
What was the one right before bananas?
The beef? Yeah, that was weird to me, too.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk about something really neat we got for our holiday gift guide preview. And this is something you may want to consider picking up for a friendo in your family. And well, Warner Brothers Home Entertainment was gracious enough to send over Friends, the complete series on 4K. So before I go any further, there are 236 episodes of this television show. So I didn't get a chance to watch 10 seasons of this show, but I had to do a lot of research on this, and for the most part, I think the consensus is, obviously this looks better than your original DVDs that you may have, better than the Blu-ray set that came out a number of years ago. I want to say back in 2012. There was a problem with the first run of this, but there is a disc replacement program. I've only been able to find that in a few different places, so I'd wonder if the issue has been resolved. But if you do find some of your discs are mislabeled, there is something you can do to take care of that. So again, do your own research as you're proceeding through this series. Again, 236 episodes. Didn't get a chance to watch everything, but from what I do gather from the research and my first-hand experience with this, it looks pretty good. I watched episodes from the 5th season, 6th season, and the 10th season, and I think it looks better than what I've seen previously. I think it looks better than any of the streaming versions that are currently available. Though weirdly enough, no digital code with this set, which actually kind of surprised me. Although the big benchmark I always talk about with like this type of stuff, what is the special features that are included? Well, from what I can tell, it looks like they went back and redid a lot of the audio for this. I think it does have a superior audio mix. I'm watching this on a 5.1 surround sound system, and it did sound pretty clear, pretty crisp to me. Didn't hear anything too weird. Dialogue was nice and clear, and I appreciate that. Audience laugh track wasn't too distracting, but then again, like I said, I don't have the previous sets to compare this against. Visually, looks fine. I mean, it was a sitcom that was shot in the 90s and into the 2000s. Nothing drastic here, but when you look at some of the older archival special features, you can definitely notice a difference in quality. Which, the thing where I noticed the most biggest jump in quality was actually an old appearance they did on The Tonight Show that aired just after the finale did back in, I want to say, 2004 on Jay Leno. And it was vastly different from how it looked in the season 10 finale episode for the series, just how crisp and clean things were, little things you could notice on like actors' skin and whatnot, little things in the background. However, one thing that I always do is I judge physical media by what you get in terms of special features. So you're getting everything here that's archival plus two new special features, one of which I'm actually a big fan of because it focuses on the physical props and some of the physical sets that still exist on the Warner Brothers lot today. Monica's apartment still exists, Joey's apartment still exists, and Central Perk still exists. And I want to say there was like a traveling exhibit a little while ago, and I want to say we got contacted by these guys like a while ago, like offering us a tour, but obviously I'm not going to New York, so whatever, I guess. But still, interesting stuff, fairly short, but you're not going to run out of special features to watch on here. There's like documentaries on here that are fairly significant, like longer than 20 minutes. There's obviously gag reels, commentaries. There's a lot to go through here now. I'm actually pretty impressed with that overall. However, though, you do not get the most recent special that had the cast reunion that I want to say happened back in 2021 that did have everybody together for the final time, including the final appearance of Matthew Perry. Now, that being said, they do mention Matthew Perry's passing in one of the special features, specifically called Through the Peephole, which is where they talk about the props and stuff like that. They do have a still photograph that says, "To our friend Matthew Perry." It shows his birth and the date of his passing. So I was pretty surprised to see that on here, but I'm glad they did do that. I would have liked to have seen the reunion special included on here, or I don't know, maybe something for his book or something. But still, glad that it was there, glad to be acknowledged. There's also another special feature that goes, "How well do you know your friends?" which is like a game show like thing, and you have to answer 7 questions across the history of the franchise. I'm not the biggest Friends fan. Somehow I got 5 out of 7 right, so either I'm psychic and I just know how to predict these things, or I know more about this show than I thought I did. Who knew? But still, overall, the biggest takeaway from this is the Friends 4K of the complete series worth upgrading to. I think if you have the older Blu-rays, I'm gonna say yes, and here's why. Blu-ray stuff does often have problems when it comes to disc rot over time. And, you know, not having the best audio mix and everything, whatever, I do think it is worth upgrading. However, the price tag on this is fairly significant. So, with all that in mind, I do think the set is worth owning if you can get it at a good price. And because it's Christmas time, and hey, it is the time of holiday gift giving, maybe Santa will bring this to you. And I don't think that that's a terrible way to spend the holiday season. Like, I've gone on record saying I'm not the biggest fan of the Friends show, though going back at it, it's kind of an interesting snapshot of television history. And I gotta say, I do like it a little bit more than I thought I would. Are there some problematic elements in it? Yeah, of course. That's just the nature of television as it exists. And you have to examine media through the lens of the time, but you also have to be cognizant of how that history might be reflected now. So, yeah, Friends is an iconic television show. It shaped many childhoods. The song I'll Be There For You is my grade 8 grad song, so I will never not associate this show with my life. And I used to watch the first 3 seasons when I was a kid, so you know what? Not so bad. So ultimately, my recommendation is going to be for the Friends the Complete series on 4K Ultra HD is, yes, if you can get this at a great price, go for it. Most definitely worth getting as a gift. I think it's fairly fantastic. And I think you're going to definitely enjoy having a coffee down at Central Perk listening to Smelly Cat. And hey, who knows, maybe I'll try some beef trifle, which is so weird, but Joey ate it anyway.
Because of course I do. I love you. I love you. I love you. What am I doing? I love you. I've got to see you. I've got to get off this plane.
Oh my God.
Excuse me, miss. Please sit down. No, I'm sorry, but I need to get off the plane, okay? I need to just tell someone that I love them.
Miss, I can't let you off the plane.
Let her off the plane!
I am afraid you are going to have to take your seat.
Oh, please, miss, you don't understand.
Try to understand!
Oh, come on, miss, isn't there any way that you can just let me off the...
No! No! Oh my God. Did she get off the plane? Did she get off the plane?
I got off the plane.
Go crazy.
Don't mind if I do.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey guys, welcome back to This Week in Geek.net, where I'm sleep deprived, and that's okay. I'm still Mike the Birdman, I think. He's Alex, the producer, and it is time to talk about the strangest things that happened this week on this plane of reality. Let's rock and roll. Our first story comes courtesy of Business Insider. And this one's kind of cool. So a CIA counterterrorism officer's cover was being a comic book author. Now he's an award-winning writer for DC working in Hollywood on HBO's Lantern. To say that Tom King has a varied career is an understatement. As a little boy growing up in Los Angeles, King wanted to be a comic book writer. After honing his writing skills as a young man, his dream came true when he interned for Marvel in New York. But his bubble was burst when Robert Harras, the editor-in-chief at Marvel at the time, told him comics are dead and he should find a real job. So he studied philosophy and history at Columbia University and worked at the Department of Justice for over a year after he graduated in the year 2000. Then 9/11 happened. King told Business Insider he felt a call to action where he made another career move, joining the CIA. Growing up, King's grandmother would tell him stories about how his grandfather volunteered to help the U.S. after Pearl Harbor. That just got under my skin, so I did like a million other people and I just tried to find some way to get into the fight, he said. King thought he'd have a desk job because he was good with information, but after a year of psychological testing in 2002, he became a counterterrorism officer working for 7 years in countries including Afghanistan, Iraq, and Pakistan. Things came full circle when he was given a cover for when he traveled abroad. He dismissed his boss's suggested and instead told border security interrogators he was a comic book writer. He said, "I thought it was such bullshit. Tom, you're a pretend chemistry businessman." I was like, I don't know shit about chemistry business. So I threw that away and I'm like, oh, I'm a comic book writer. I even got interrogated and they'd be like, let me talk to you about comics. And I'd be like, okay, let's go. After the birth of his first son, King left the CIA, partially because he didn't want to give them a fatherless life and returned to his first passion, comics. Pretending to be a comic book writer in the CIA meant he was already in the right mindset. In 2013, he wrote for the Vertigo imprint before his first work at DC Comics, Nightwing, about Batman's former sidekick, was published in 2014. Since rejoining the industry, he's earned many accolades, including winning the Eisner Award, considering the Oscar comic books, in 2018 and 2019 for Batman and Mr. Miracle and Swamp Thing. I love writing. I really like the CIA. I mean, I very much enjoyed the work, but I thought I like this even more. This feels more natural to me, he said. To King to surpass, he was able to draw on his skills as a writer when he was trying to recruit suspected terrorists to spy for him. The most important thing about being a CIA officer is not the gunplay and all that stuff. The most important thing is empathy. I was what they call a case officer, which means you're trying to get people to spy on other people, he said. I had to find what was in common with them, and I had to get inside their head and immediately understand what they wanted and how to make their lives matter and what their motivations were. Similarly, writing is about inspiring empathy for characters, he said. It's the work at DC that usually involves deconstructing a beloved character and presenting them from an unconventional angle. His latest series, Black Canary, Best of the Best, is a story about the motherhood through the lens of an MMA fight between the titular hero and the DC Universe's strongest fighter, Lady Shiva. King said it's a story about not giving up. It's a story about an underdog who should lose when everyone predicts you should lose, and how they've been beaten to the ground and beaten just to the edge until nothing's left about them but their soul, and how they have to cling to that and get back up from the mat and keep fighting. Writing a story about a hero fighting a villain is harder than fans might think. At its heart, King said it's about a mother and a daughter, and about the greatest theme of all time in all of DC lore, which is legacy. He added, the idea of what your parents give to you and what you take from them, how they shape you, and how you rebel against them. And then the article just kind of goes on to talk about his kind of writing career.
But it's a funny idea. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, to think, I don't know shit about chemistry. I mean, if you're going to be interrogated by, someone in Iraq or Afghanistan, you better know your fucking cover story front to cover. I mean, if
the
they
only
ask
problem
me,
is if you use something that's too close to your real life, it is easier for them to find you in your real life.
Mm-hmm.
So the trick is find something that not only do you love, or find something that you're good at learning. So if there's something that you're good at but you don't like in real life, that's what you should really use as your backstory, because it's easier to fake a smile and pretend to like something, or be really good at something, and then if they're like, well, you don't seem happy doing this as your job, even though it's your fake job, you could be like, yeah, man, I just don't like the grind. People are like that, right? Just because there are a lot of people that are really good at something that they don't like doing, but they have to do it for work. That's usually the best kind of CIA cover. But this, okay.
What I would do,
I don't know what to say.
I would be a writer, because that's what I do. And I would do, what do you do? I write pilots for kind of television. Anything I've seen? No. Are you any good at it? No. Why do they keep hiring you? Well, they got to keep someone in the writer's room, and I'm protected by the union. That's it. There's your fucking cover story. You write pilots, you punch up dialogue. As you mentioned, you're basically Kevin Smith. That's what you do. And that would totally work. Or you can say, what do you do? Oh, I write movie reviews for Rotten Tomatoes under a pseudonym or something like that. You could do that. Now, you could maybe get found out by that, but I'm going to guess the terrorists have better things to do than hang around on the IMDb message boards or something like that. There's ways to get around it. Comic writer's a pretty good one. But the fact that he was working for such a recognizable company, that's pretty interesting. But I guess that was after he left the CIA and all that shit.
And he got to have his dream job after potentially helping assassinate people.
Yeah, that's pretty friggin' nutty. So good on you.
I mean, obviously, it doesn't sound like he was not somebody who was... He's not somebody who was going to be a field agent that was going to be in trouble, but he had to have a backstory. And then also, he was basically like an analyst.
Yeah.
Intelligence analyst.
So kind of like... trying to think, the guy, not John Clark from the television series. Help me out here. It was on Paramount Plus. I reviewed it. Starred Mr. Fantastic, guy from A Quiet Place, John Krasinski. I'm trying to remember what the fuck it was called now.
Oh,
Jack Ryan. That's it. Yeah, because Jack Ryan was an analyst, but he was also Mr. Action Hero too.
Well, he's Mr. Action Hero after the first movie or book or whatever. Basically the role of Alec Baldwin in Hunt for Red October, when he was truly a CIA analyst.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when he became friggin' Harrison Ford and what's his name?
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck. Then he became an action hero.
Yeah, it's weird. I remember reading some of the John Clark, or not John Clark, some of the Jack Ryan stuff. I got into it because of Rainbow Six in the 90s, because I was playing Rainbow Six Rogue Spear. So that's how old I am.
You
And
know
I
what's
remember
funny? That's the first one I ever played.
it was a really good game. It was fun. And then I played Rainbow Six Raven Shield.
It was way less hard than like original Rainbow Six.
Oh yeah, like, and the fact that Rainbow Six Siege is still going today really impresses me, and that game gets constant support from Ubisoft.
It's
so
the
games
two,
as a service do work.
The two games as a service games that I'm surprised that still survive, but they have like robust player bases, is that and For Honor.
Yeah, For Honor still going. That's crazy.
And it launched rough. I remember my friends that got it, it was never for me, right? But friends that got it, like, man, this is rough. And it came out, I think, around the exact same time as, was it Splatoon 2, I think?
No, it was way before that. I think
was it way before that?
Like 2017. Easy. Maybe even 2016. Yeah, it's old.
Maybe, yeah. But I just remember, like, friends getting it around that time, and they played it way more than I was expecting. And like, it's, to me, in my head, it's like sort of like how it's a sleeper, like Kingdom Come Deliverance was that same sort of way, right? It became like this big sleeper game. But like, people don't realize that in that world of Valorant and all these sorts of games, for whatever reason, For Honor and and Rainbow Six Siege have been like basically what's kept like Ubi alive.
Yeah, more or less. So moving on to our next story. This one comes courtesy of techspot.com. Vodka-powered robots harness Cheerios-inspired physics for a movement in bizarre experiment.
You're welcome for this story, by the way. When I saw that all I thought of was Bender from Futurama. He's a vodka-powered robot.
He is. In brief, what is certainly one of the quirkiest science demonstrations we've seen, researchers have taken inspiration from a phenomenon observed in Cheerios to create tiny robots powered by vodka. It's just a proof of concept for now, but the team says the robot could potentially be used in environmental cleanup or industrial processes. The bots are developed by a team led by Jackson Wilt at Harvard University, as reported by New Scientist. They experimented with 3D printed plastic pucks around 1 centimeter wide, each containing an air chamber for buoyancy and a miniature fuel tank, but instead of a traditional fuel, they filled the tanks with varying concentrations of alcohol ranging from 10% to 50%. When the pucks were placed in water, the alcohol gradually leaked out, setting off what is known as the Margoni effect. This occurs when fluid with lower surface tension rapidly spreads across fluid with higher surface tension. As the alcohol with its lower surface tension spreads over the water, it propelled the little robots across the surface. The same phenomena is what allows some species of beetles to skim across the water surface, but instead of using alcohol, they use special secretions that act as a surfactant and propel the beetles forward. The thing with vodka is that it's pricier compared to some other types of alcohol like beer. However, New Scientist notes going with stronger beverages was a choice. Higher alcohol concentrations simply work better as a fuel source for achieving greater propulsion. With Wilt noting beer would not be as effective. Indeed, some experiments saw the pucks motor along up to 500 seconds at peak speeds of around 6 centimeters per second. Soap was another candidate. However, alcohol bested that since it simply evaporates after propelling the robot rather than contaminating and disrupting the water surface required for the Margoni effect or Maganoli effect. I'm not sure how to pronounce this.
Marangoni effect.
Yeah.
Marangoni. That's hard even for me as an Italian to look at.
After nailing the basics, the team created more complex robots by assembling 3D printing multiple fuel outlets into the pucks and linking them together. This allowed the robots to trace out curved paths or spin rapidly. Using multiple robots also helped demonstrate the Cheerio effect, the clustering of floating objects caught by attractive forces between new meniscus they create on the water surface. The experiment seems like amusing novelty right now, but researchers believe the robots could have serious applications. Will suggest it could potentially used to evenly disperse substances through bodies of water for environmental remediation or certain industrial processes that required timed material distribution. The robots could also find use as educational tools, allowing students or a hands-on way to observe concepts like surface tension. I could see this being used in environmental cleanup, actually.
I I don't think in the ocean, but I think in cleaning up lakes,
Lakes and rivers.
where people had been traditionally the last couple hundred years dumping waste and stuff. It's a controlled surface area, and just to make it simple, I'm calling it the macaroni effect.
Now,
where these vodka robots with the macaroni effect could, like, think about if you had to, on a larger scale, distribute very evenly, so not like all in one spot where it would sink to the bottom, something that would help with the pH balance of the water or something.
I could see this being used in water God damn, I'm stuttering. Reclamation project. Like, think about this in the municipal water supply. This could really help for like sewer treatment,
desalinating water, or again, yeah, like if you're like, oh man, maybe we need to put something in that can help break up clogs in the sewer system or the water treatment plant, and instead of like having to dig open, turn off the pipe, cut a hole in the pipe, have a worker manually go in, what if you send these like little robots in that slowly eat away at it without using a super harsh chemical or something that would disrupt the actual water flow?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about fatbergs last week, those things that were washing up on the beaches of Australia. Having robots like this that could break those down before they get out into the ocean, that's a possibility. So I think that is pretty cool.
Or something as weird as it sounds, as a commercial application for like regular consumers. What about people that buy a home or whatever for somebody, and they have a pool outside that's gotten all scummy and gross, and you could really scrub at it, but what if you want to, at the nano level, just like send some robots out that will send something out that eats the algae?
Yeah, I mean, this could revolutionize pool cleaning. You're not wrong. All right, so our last story, and this place smells like home, I'm going to say, msn.com. This is Miller High Life is making a cologne that says smells like a dive bar. Dive bars
so it smells like old beer in carpet and old sweat cigarettes, people over the age of 50 that have nowhere else to go, and you know that smell that like old wooden floorboards get when they've got 60 years of damp beer soaked into them.
Yeah, like this sounds disgusting. So dive bars aren't generally the best smelling of places. Stale beer, sweat, and often despair linger in the air, but the beers are cheap and the company is largely non-judgmental. If you just can't get enough of that scent, though, Miller Lite is rolling out a cologne that will let you proudly wear it around town. Miller High Life Dive Bar Fume will go on sale tomorrow, so already on sale as of this recording. A bottle will run you about $40, which would buy a lot of beer at most dive bars. So what exactly does the perfume smell like? Well, we haven't got a whiff of it ourselves. Miller says it, quote, captures every familiar dive bar scent, from the satisfying crack of a freshly opened beer to the comforting, savory taste of classic bar snacks. To achieve that, the maker of the fragrance blended a variety of scents. Cedarwood and patchouli are included to bring the smell of the bar top to mind. Okay, tobacco and leather are blended together to recreate the bar stool smell. Please tell us if you're not sniffing the bar stool at a dive bar. That would be a bad idea. Champa Blossom is included to recreate the smell of a Miller High Life opening, an odd choice since flowers are not what comes to mind when opening most beers. And sea salt, meant to bring the smell of a basket of fries, are the final blend. Not included is the smell of the guy at the end of the bar who's always there regardless of when you visit. And then it just goes on to do some PR buzzwords. I've been in a couple of dive bars growing up. Not by choice.
I've been to a few. Like, I used to go to a record store that was right next to one, and you could, like, the door was always open because the smell was always there. It's like, it's not the kind of mold that's going to kill you, because there's enough alcohol seeped into every piece of wood that it kills the bad mold. But it was like, oh man, it's like when you're a kid growing up, you're like, what's the difference between a good bar and a bad bar? Bad bars all have the exact same smell.
Oh yeah, like,
and they also usually don't have a place where you can order from a regular menu.
That's true. Like, the two bars I used to frequent a lot when I was in college was a place called Handlebar Hanks and Cheers. One of them sounds about as generic as fuck as you can imagine, but best chicken wings I've ever had. Fight me. And the other place had some of the best bar pizza I've ever had. And I don't know what it was about it. I think they just had someone who really knew how to make dough. Hell, I used to know a lot of the waitresses on Facebook. We used to talk.
I have some jokes about how they made it that I was going to say, but I won't. But I'll tell you off air.
Oh God. But yeah, it's like, I can't see this being an attractive smell. I mean, I don't know, man. That just sounds weird. But I remember my dad growing up, or my grandfather growing up rather. He had bottles of High Karate and Old Spice. I'm pretty sure had been around since the turn of the fucking century. So I can't trust my sense of smell for shit.
The only thing it's missing from the scent that would have made it perfect is Aqua Velva Blue.
Oh God!
Like if they could somehow get just a little bit of that $3 bottle of Aqua Velva that every old man over the age of 50 wore back in the 80s and 90s, it would have been perfect. Actually, you know what's missing? Maybe it's just our generation because we remember old people wearing it. It's missing that distinct smell that all the old guys at the bar used to have when they would put what was that hair product they'd put in? Not like the greaser, like what was it, Grecian formula or whatever it was, where they
yeah.
That's, oh man, like there's a certain scent to those guys, and you're like, oh no, they're here because they yeah.
Yeah.
They're here because they belong here, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that they couldn't transfer themselves to a better bar.
Yeah, exactly. That is just a very peculiar smell, and we've seen some of these weird things. I mean, I'd rather wear the KFC one smelling like a fucking fried chicken's asshole than smell like a dive bar.
Am I the only person that prefers any cologne or scents to just be like, I'd like to smell like either fresh soap or fresh linen from the laundry. Like that's the best smell to me. Now, obviously, there's things like that affect like pheromones, and certain scents will affect different, the male or female, the sexes, blah, blah, pheromones, blah, all that stuff together. So there's those factors. But like, why is it that every male cologne usually has to smell like musky ass? If that was the case, why wouldn't you just not wear cologne at all?
See, it's weird. I mean, obviously, our generation was the generation of Axe body spray.
Oh, you mean the con shower?
Yeah, pretty fucking much. And believe me, I've been to enough Smash tournaments to know that smells an immediate turn off. My favorite smell when it comes to that stuff was Irish Spring, because it always smelled good.
Which people make fun of, but again, that smells like fresh soap.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Although
no, you know what? Zestfully clean, son.
Yeah, there was a
sorry. They made. I remember there was a Zest cologne.
Yep, I remember that.
That gave the same smell as the soap, and I think that there was. No, I don't think there was an Irish Spring, but there was. And there still is like Old Spice that is like both soap and that. So like, I don't know. It's still better than Axe.
Oh yeah, there was a perfume two of my girlfriends used to wear, and whenever I happen to catch a whiff of it in public, it always takes me back to like the early 2000s. I think one was like a Ralph Lauren, and one was like this cheap dollar store perfume, but it smelled really good. I just really like the smell of it.
I know which one. It's a knockoff of a Chanel that they used to sell at the bargain shop.
And it came in like a gold container, right?
Yes.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Yes, every girl wore that in the 80s, or not 80s, mid to late 90s and early, like before Sephora and all those other brands started, like stores started popping up where they had like reasonably priced stuff for economical youngsters.
Although there was something my first serious girlfriend got me into. She took me to the body shop because she's like, I want my boy to smell nice. I'm thinking, okay, fine. And I can't remember what it was, but I remember what it looked like. And I remember what it smelled like. It was this orange bath thing. And I smelled like tangerine, but I smelled fucking awesome. And I missed that smell. Fuck.
You know what's crazy? I had that same thing.
Yeah, see, girls just like that shit.
Because it was. I remember in school, it was one guy was wearing that, and I don't remember how I got it. I think it was I think in my group of friends, one of our friends that was a girl got it for anybody who wanted it, because we weren't gonna like, we're like, what? Because I remember some guy was wearing something like that, and all the girls were like, you smell great today. The one guy were like, okay. So Alex was, what is that, and where'd you get it? He's like, I don't know, my girlfriend got it for me. Now all the girls are talking to me. And I'm like, that's a problem? And then I remember, I think it was one of our friends that was a girl, were like, hey, could you hook us up with that? So we each got a bottle, like grade 8 or grade 9.
And it was small. I know exactly the one you mean. Man, if I end up going to the mall today, I'm kind of curious to see if I can still find that.
Probably not, because it was probably made from like, rat fetuses or something. We're talking before they tested things properly, or you knew where they came from. It's probably something carcinogenic, poisonous in it that they, otherwise I would have still smelt it, but I haven't smelt that smell since like 2002.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to go take a look today. I don't know.
It's the same as Aqua Velva. They probably still make it for old people, but like, there's the blue Aqua Velva and the green Aqua Velva. You can't get those smells out of your head, even though you haven't smelt them in 30 years.
It's true. Like, it's just that scent that takes you back. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of This Week in Geek. And we got one more review coming to us, and this one's going to be from Alex about a classic game that's kind of been reborn. I think you described it to me, that was really popular way back when. So check this out. We'll be back, guys, with our final thoughts on the year 2024, and us here on the podcast. We'll be back right after this, only on thisweekingeek.net.
Alex, the producer here, and I am here to check out and do a quickie review / impressions on Breath of Death 7, The Beginning Reanimated. Long title for a title that you may find familiar, even if you haven't played it. It might be sticking in the back of your head. Where have I heard that name before? Other than obviously being a tongue-in-cheek homage to like Breath of Fire and all the titles. There is no 1 through 6. 7 was the original. And where you might have heard of it was way back on the Xbox Live Arcade. It was released, was it got to be 13 years ago? 14 years ago now? Maybe even getting close to 15. And that was one of the top indie titles back when the live indie service was like the new hotness. And I don't remember playing it on Xbox because I did not have an Xbox. I wasn't part of the Xbox ecosystem until, oh geez, what was it, like right near the end of the Xbox One era when I got into it, when I started doing all the podcasting stuff here. I was mostly PlayStation and a little bit of Nintendo and very, very little PC. But where I do remember playing this was on PC on Steam, and I had to go into my Steam archive because it's been so long. I'm not, traditionally, you guys know me, I'm not the biggest PC gamer. But when Steam was fairly new, or I was fairly new to Steam, I had a few games that I picked up here and there, and before Humble Bundles and all that sort of stuff, where I really started collecting a bunch. And I went, wait a minute. In the deep recesses of my mind, I'm getting older. I'm like, I think I've played this. And I went and found the original version of the game. Yes, I had purchased it, I think 13 years ago. And I went, wait a minute. Did I beat this game? And lo and behold, because they track everything on there, I had about 10 hours or so into the game, and I went, oh dude, I did beat it back, way back. And I remember, the memory started flushing back to me, and it was like, oh, this was a pretty charming title. And I remembered it being, pretty basic, not quite RPG Maker-ish look, but it had that sort of retro look that looked like it could have been from an engine. I don't know what they used to initially develop it, but here we go, 13 to 15 years later, depending on when you played it, and we have the from the ground up remake. And what you get here is something with completely new visual engine, new gameplay. As far as we know, it's completely from the ground up, completely remade to be exactly the same as far as gameplay and experience goes, but much better visuals, a better overall combat system, pretty traditional in how it plays. It's got that tongue-in-cheek, jokey, lighthearted sort of storyline and just feel to it, and it's supposed to evoke the feelings of like the 16-bit era of RPGs. And this is sort of like one of the granddaddies of the retro revival, talking probably closer to almost 10 years before a lot of other games started coming out like this. So what you get is a 2D turn-based JRPG style game. There are dungeons to explore at overworld in towns. As is with traditional games like this, there's no enemy encounters within the towns. That's where you can talk to NPCs and go to stores and all that sort of stuff. You do encounter at random enemies when you're outside, going around the overworld and in dungeons. It's one of the first games I played, and it still plays like that, where when you beat an enemy and you finish the fight, your HP goes to full, but your MP does not. So you still have to do some item management or manage your resources that way, but it's not quite as hard because you don't have to worry too much about your HP as long as you can make it through the battle. So obviously a strategy is, can I get through the battle with using as little MP as possible? That sort of thing. You can change your difficulty settings at any time. You can select it from the beginning of the game, but you can change it throughout, and that'll alter just basically how much of a damage sponge the enemies are, maybe some tactics that they use, and will make it a little easier on you. Pretty straightforward. You can use, if you're playing it, analog stick or controller, or obviously if you want to use keyboard, you can use that for controls. And it's pretty straightforward. If you've known the layout of an RPG on the Super Nintendo, that's basically the controller layout if you're playing with the gamepad. I remember it being roughly 8 to 10 hours of gameplay depending on your difficulty, and we're pretty much right here in the same. The basic story premise behind this is you're playing sort of flipped on its head. You're playing as what would you consider monsters or demons, and you are it's basically flipping the script, for what you would normally think of as a JRPG. You're not playing as the normal heroes. You're playing as what would be considered the bad guys, who are now the heroes. And without spoiling too much, it plays on a lot of the traditional JRPG tropes. Pretty fun overall. I think it's a good upgrade to the system. It'll run basically on anything, so you got a laptop or with integrated graphics from the last 7-8 years or more, no problem. You got a mini PC with like an N100, because that's what I did. I obviously knew this would play on my PCs with my ARCs A380, and then I got a 3080 Ti in the other computer. No sweat, obviously. But the real trick was this going to be something that I could boot up and play on something with really low resources? So I took the portable computer that I usually take to different places to watch media on, which is one of those Chinese Intel N100 based CPU APUs, with no integrated graphics, just got the built-in Intel HD 7, was it 710 or whatever series that is, and installed the game, booted up 1080p, no problems. So this will run on like a $100 computer. So you should not have any issues playing it. It's available on Steam. Great part is it's $5. So $5 US. Your market will change differently in Canada. You're looking at $7 to $10 depending on if it's on sale or not. But at $5, well worth it. You get 10 hours of gameplay. Pretty solid. The original version I booted up to play and compare. The original version from almost 2 decades ago still plays okay. You might have some compatibility issues with Windows if you're depending on the video card, not just because of its age. But comparing the two, it's obvious that this new version is a much better just overall game. So it's well worth it. It's nice to see these sort of classics, quote unquote. It's weird me saying that, but at almost 20 years old, you're entering the second decade. That is a classic. It's definitely worth picking up, and I think anybody can play it. Kids aren't going to have trouble. It's a fun way if you're looking for over the holidays to just gift somebody like a stocking stuffer or something, and then if they want to have a fun weekend to just hang out and play, it's definitely one you can check out.
You must be crazy. When are you going to stop believing in something that isn't true?
When you stop believing in that fellow with the red suit and the white beard who goes ho, ho, ho.
We are obviously separated by denominational differences.
Sorry, hold on.
It's okay. I broke Michael because I said some really off-color things off air. So,
Yes.
which we won't repeat here, but you can imagine it was
It was really good.
Yes.
Now,
Nothing bigoted or offensive. Just
messed
really,
up.
really blue stuff that I said to him.
Oh yeah,
So
and
sorry about that. Sorry about that, Michael. I kind of broke you a little bit here.
oh, a little bit. I was actually just saying to Alex off air. So since the show was powered by Insomnia, this has been a really fascinating experiment because the last time I've done a 24-hour marathon, I was playing a video game. I was hyper focused. It's been really weird to track my thought patterns during the course of this show and just trying to maintain cohesive thought, trains of thought, making sure that I'm making sense. It's been a really fascinating experience to look as the process happens. So I really hope I've been coherent during this show, which, like I said, we've had not the greatest last half of the year because me and Alex have both been really sick. So taking this hiatus, we're still going to be recording some shows during the break, so there's always something fresh. I know me and Ken and Dave are going to be recording a bunch. Me and JT have some stuff planned for the future, so you guys always have some fresh content. Alex is going to take some much needed time off. I'm going to take a heavily reduced workload, other than hockey and maybe the odd recording where I watch a movie with Dave and Ken. I'm just going to take it easy. We do have Holiday Gift Guide coming out this week, so look forward to that. We're going to be doing the Game Awards. That should be out by the weekend. We're going to watch the show. We're going to think about it for probably like a day or two. Then me and Alex and Ken will get together and we'll kind of talk about it this year. And it should be pretty good. I mean, the Game Awards are the one gaming event that me and Alex never miss. I look forward more to this than E3 because E3, yes, you get a lot of interesting stuff, but you don't get the razzle dazzle. And Jeff, say what you will about the guy, he puts on a good show.
He's had some razzle dazzle in the summertime in the past, but it's quite clear that the Game Awards is the critical one.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though like we had some decent stuff this past summer and the summer before, you sort of jumped in when you could. There's been some good stuff, but like I think he's at somewhere in the realm of like 20 million, 25 million viewers for the Summer Game Fest stuff. And it's like 130 million for the Game Awards. So it's now quickly become where the most important stuff to watch is.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to it and it should be fun. So look forward for that coverage later on this week.
Depending on our schedules, the plan is at some point over the next couple of weeks for us to get some sort of maybe Christmas special that we can put out in that time. If not, but if we can, then we'll have something out either a day or two before Christmas, so you have something to listen to during that week.
I know Dave wanted to collaborate with you and I to show him some Canadian Christmas specials. So
yeah, so we've got basically a week and a half or so to figure that out, and we'll figure it out and we'll make it work.
Exactly. We will have tons of stuff for you. But I guess in closing, hopefully next year, me and Alex's health will be a little bit better and we'll have more consistency. So as of right now, we are planning coming back on about the 3rd or last week in January. So either the 20th or the 27th, give or take, which at that point, TWIG will be on the air for 17 years?
Wait a minute.
2007.
18 years.
18 years, folks. We are now legal. That's insane to think. We can now join the army. We can now buy interesting magazines from a store.
You can vote. You can buy booze if we go to Quebec. If we want to relocate the podcast.
Yeah,
I don't know. What can you buy? Is cannabis 19 the same as alcohol here in Ontario?
I think it is. I'm almost positive.
Okay, one more year, son, and then we just become the Cheech and Chong Up and Smoke podcast.
But yeah, like I've had a lot of fun welcoming new people onto the show, having Ken contribute on a more regular basis. We've been trying to get JT's schedule and mine kind of figured out, but that's just, we're trying to get scheduled aligned, so stay tuned. But having Dave come onto the podcast from Do You Even Movies has been wonderful. Hopefully we'll hear more from Aaron in the new year. Since I launched my Patreon, that's been trying to maintain that. I wish I did a better job at it, but the fact that I've made it free and you can support me if you want, I think was the best move. This way I'm not asking pay me for something that's not going to show up. I'd rather like, if you like what I'm doing, great. Working with Enrique with Weekly Spooky has been wonderful. Having James Rolfe on the show. I mean, we've already got next year's topic planned out with horror hosts. So we're going to be talking about like Joe Bob Briggs, Elvira.
Oh, you can do
Svengoolie.
Svengoolie's still doing it
Yep.
on Meat TV. He's been hired for he's not the original Svengoolie, but I think he's been doing it 40 some odd years now, 45
Yeah.
years maybe.
Yeah, so it's gonna be really fun to talk about that like kind of stuff. I mean, there's like a documentary that I'm gonna have to buy off of eBay because it's literally not anywhere anymore, and it's what I found out about horror hosts. I think it's called American Nightmare or Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue or something like that.
Okay, this is one of those cases where I will openly say we exhausted every method of trying to find it. We went to the deep dark web of full on piracy, and nobody's got it even.
Yeah, like I think
it's just, it's not that it was scrubbed. It's like nobody ever put it online, even in the piracy circles. So it's just only exists on a DVD format.
Yeah, like I saw it on either Amazon or Tubi about 10 years ago, and I've just never seen it since. And I really wish I'd taken the time to buy it. I think I found a copy on Amazon. Like you could rent it, and then just one day it was gone. So
yeah, like it's not even available for digital rental in any country. Like
yeah.
It's not even like a GeoBlock thing or anything. Like, and we were looking, and it's like, no, the DVD costs too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, didn't we see it listing like $200 because they knew it's not? It's like that's not worth it for one for a DVD that you're going to watch once for an episode of a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping I can find a copy in the new year. We'll have to wait and see. Other than that, though, I know me and Dave and Ken have been talking about launching a show where it's just us kind of shooting the shit. Because me, Dave, and Ken have vastly different perspectives on movies, and that might be kind of fun. Obviously, we're still going to continue doing loose canon. Me, Aaron, and Alex will come back doing more future imperfects, and then we'll probably get back together again on loose canon. Like this year, we did the Summer of Sedaris, and that was a lot of fun. So maybe we'll take a look at maybe another B movie action star, maybe the Summer of Michael Dudikoff, for all I know.
If you pick Julie Strain, Aaron will be there every day of the week to record.
The Cynthia Rothrock hour. Like who knows, right? Like I'm looking forward just to seeing more stuff, just being more involved. And hey, if it wasn't for you guys supporting us for the last 18 years, like this is enough where we have raised a child, a deranged and very strange child who should not be left alone in the company of weapons. But
you know
a
what's
child.
crazy? In 2 years, I will have been on the show for half as long as it's been available. 10 years, and you'll have been on 20 years. We have to do something in 2027 for a fun show or something. We'll have to figure something out.
I think that might be kind of fun. So anyway, guys, we are going to get out of here, and we will be back for Holiday Gift Guide later on this week. And then we will be back on the weekend to talk about the Game Awards that are put on by good friendo, Jeff Keighley. So I want you guys to have a safe and happy holiday. If I had to encourage anything you guys to do, I would encourage you to volunteer in your local communities, especially for those that may not be having a good holiday season. If you have the capacity to volunteer at a food bank or a soup kitchen, that does help.
It can also be something as simple as, picking up an extra toy. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can be something on sale and dropping it at a local charity for a toy drive or something, or a food drive. And and you know what? I would never shame you for doing it, but try not to do pork and beans. You know what I mean? If you got something you can donate to a food bank or something, there's a lot of people this year that are, especially with the food prices, that are going to need a little extra help if they're going to feed their family something nice.
Yeah, like I volunteer at a food bank. Donations help. Money helps more, so we can help people with specialized diets. But other than that, though, guys, please be safe. Do not drink and drive. I'm going to be repeating this during the holiday gift guide as well. But most importantly, if I had to give any message for this year, considering how divisive the politics have been in the last couple months, treat each other well, treat each other with respect, and understand the meaning of the holidays is being together with friends and family, despite the differences that divide us.
And if you don't have family around you or don't have friends you can be around, there are a lot of times in different communities, they'll have like a dinner or a lunch or a breakfast where at like community centers and that, where you can, for one meal during the holiday, even if it's just one meal, where you can get together with people and just have a good time, even if it's strangers, and you can make new friends.
Exactly. And if not, go over to Blue Sky. It's a wonderful place. I've met a lot of interesting people.
It's so much nicer so far, and I need to start posting more on both of our socials for it. Oh, that's another thing. Content update in the new year. I'll be updating all of our. I'm not doing it right now, but I'll be updating all of our show descriptions and tags and that. So right now, it still has our X/Twitter for our personals in each show. I'll be switching that over so that it directs everybody over to our Blue Sky. I will still keep the Twitter account in our descriptions for the main podcast, only because there's going to be some crossover posts between the two of them for a bit. But plan is that we're going to move forward with obviously website updates, but also social updates. So we're going to try to be much more active there. We got about a 10th maybe of the followers so far on there on the main TWIG channel. But it's going to take a while, obviously, to build it up. So that's why, once we start getting closer to parity, if we get, however many thousand followers, that's when we'll, flip the switch and say, goodbye, Twitter.
Exactly. Fuck you, Elon. So until next time, guys, until next year for the Twig Main Show, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike, the Birdman, saying happy holidays, however you choose to spend it. But most importantly, be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next year, right here on thisweekingeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.